Hello everyone, how is it going with all of you today? New video from Passive Passion Online Income. In case if you tune into my channel for the first time and I'm wondering who I am, what do I discuss, let me give you a brief. My name is Cassie, also known as Qasim Mohammed. In my channel, which is Passive Passion Online Income, I discuss about business and investing topics and at the same time my interesting travel escapades from around the world. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about assets, liabilities, and the main reason why I decided to buy my first car only after I became an entrepreneur. So without rambling any further, let's get right into it. What exactly are assets and what exactly are liabilities? I'll give you what my definition is. Also, what most of the renowned entrepreneurs think of and how exactly do they make use of their assets in order to get rich. Assets basically is an entity that puts money in your pocket and that constantly keeps bringing in income, provided you know how to grow it. On the other hand, a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Some classic examples for assets and liabilities would be, let's start with assets first. Some prime examples that I can give you of assets are real estate properties. Not the ones that you live in, but the ones that you give on rent, okay, that puts money in your pocket. Now, the same property can be considered a liability provided you are living in it. Now, why is it considered a liability? Because it isn't putting money in your pocket when you're making use of the property for your own purposes. Same thing it's got to do with your own car. Hold on a second, guys. My cat is really disturbing me. Could you please go and sit on the chair? Thank you. Sorry for that. Okay, so coming back to it, the same real estate property that you live in can be your liability, mainly for the reason that it doesn't put money in your pocket. Now, it can be a controversial topic, and it has been so, especially when Mr. Robert Kiyosaki came out with his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, where he had very clearly explained all these definitions, and it just led to a chaotic environment where people were disagreeing. However, if you technically think about it, it does make sense. It does make absolute sense, because house will always be a liability that you are living in. Of course, it does give you the comfort, it does give you the convenience of not paying rent and all that stuff. However, if you look from a entrepreneur's or an investor's point of view, it does make sense to call it a liability. Now, coming back to my story of why exactly did I decide to buy my car only after I became an entrepreneur. It all started when I bought my first Rich Dad Poor Dad book. It was when I was, how old was I at that time? I was 20 years old. And that's when it completely transformed my thinking. So that's when it transformed my life in a way wherein I started being more prudent and cautious with spending my money when it came to my needs and my wants. Now, many people do not consider these factors when it comes to shopping, when it comes to buying stuff for themselves. Without taking cautious measures, without being more prudent, they just go and splurge their money without thinking about the pros and cons. Reading Rich Dad and Poor Dad was a mind opener for me completely. Mainly because it expanded my horizons of spending my money, and at the same time it started training me indirectly to become an entrepreneur and an investor. There was a time when most of my friends, my colleagues, were, after the most expensive and fancy cars, and at the same time they were doing their best to encourage and convince me to do the same. However, I had my priorities and I had my laser sharp focus. I knew what I wanted and where exactly I was heading. Because my mission was to become financially independent, at least by the age of 29 or 30. And fortunately enough, I was able to fulfill and accomplish my goals by the age of 28. So by the age of 28, I was financially independent. I was making more than $10,000 per month, okay, from my business and investments alone. That's when I started pursuing my objectives into different territories, got into online businesses where I started studying, where I started investing in myself. Now, talking about assets and liabilities, guys, do consider that a car never has to be considered as a liability if you know what you're doing with the car. Now, what do I mean by that is, let's say I buy a car, okay. But before I talk about this, let me give you one classic example that actually relates to what I'm talking about. Before I bought my first car for my personal use, I mean the car that I have right now is a Toyota Platinum Corolla, okay, which is completely for my personal use, okay. Now before buying this car, I had already bought 4 cars, all right, and this was back in India. Now all these 4 cars, you must be wondering, what on earth was I thinking of when I bought all these 4 cars? It was not for my use at all. I had bought it with a mission of giving it on lease to a 5-star property, which was back in my country, and making monthly income out of those cars alone. So that was my purpose, and things worked out absolutely fine. I spoke to the managers of those particular hotel, made an agreement with them, made a contract with them, and those cars are still bringing me in money. So you get the point, you know what I'm talking about. There is absolutely no issues in spending money on luxuries, but try to understand where that money is coming from. If you're going to be spending money from your hard-earned salary, then what you're doing is something which is absolutely foolish. But then having said that, you need to know what your needs and wants are. If buying a car is an absolute necessity for you, is it something which you cannot live without? Is it going to make your life more inconvenient? Or let's say, is it really going to hamper your earning capacity? Then perhaps you could go for it. But at the same time, you need to think that this is a liability. How do I make sure I invest or garner more assets, which is going to take care of my expenses for the liabilities? So coming back to the topic of cars. So that's when I decided that it's better for me to buy a car only when I'll be having a good amount of assets, which will be bringing me a significant amount of passive income, which should be more than $6,000 to $7,000. And I believe I decided to buy, it's been a year now. I actually bought my car last year. So I could have bought it when I became financially independent at the age of 28. However, I just felt that it wasn't a necessity, because you need to understand where I live in. I live in Dubai, okay, and Dubai isn't as big as most of the large landscape countries like Canada, US, or Europe, or India. In fact, it's a very small city, you know. So the public transport system out here is fabulous. If you want to reach any particular famous tourist landmark or a shopping mall, there are the systems have been designed in such a way wherein it just makes your life absolutely convenient and easy. But of course, having your own personal car has its own pros. So that was my reason. And for me, I've always been a person who thinks about what my investment holds for me in future. Let's say before I mean, I'm not saying that I don't enjoy spending money on luxuries. Absolutely, I do. If you look at the kind of lifestyle that I live in, people say that I have a pretty hedonistic lifestyle because I enjoy wearing the best stuff. I enjoy eating and drinking the best, stuff that any connoisseur can recommend or think of. I enjoy taking luxury holidays. But where does the money come from? It all comes from my assets. And that has been my mission right from the day I turned 20 years old, and I started reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. Because I used to always wonder, how on earth are rich people able to multiply their income and at the same time enjoy the lifestyle that they yearn for? So the secret is keep buying assets and let your income that comes from your asset take care of your luxuries as well. Now, talking about your lifestyle expenses, do keep in mind that, let's start with since I talk a lot about Kindle publishing, let's divert the topic to Kindle publishing, and let me share an example with you that transpired with one of my students. Okay, now I'm not going to give complete details because obviously we're not here to bash anyone, Now, this student of mine happens to be a European, all right. She started her Kindle publishing business and was making a good amount of income from, I believe it was roughly about 20 or 22 books. She was making about $5,000 to $6,000 per month, all right. The biggest mistake she made was she did not reinvest, okay. For roughly about 6 to 7 months, she did not publish a single book. And she eventually noticed that her income started subsiding. Okay, it started dwindling, and that's when she started panicking. She noticed that what exactly on earth was she doing wrong. She got in touch with me, and then she was telling me that this has been an issue. What do I do to get out of it? Is there something you could do to help me? So I started asking her plenty of questions. I said, why is it that you did not reinvest in your business? Why is it that you didn't think of building a series? I mean, I talk about this on my mentorship sessions. So I started probing and asking all relevant questions, just to understand where exactly her money was going in. Because her lifestyle expenses, okay, was coming down to $2,000 alone. So I was asking her, where was this $3,000 going? She said, well, I was excited. I was, doing a lot of shopping. I was taking holidays, having meals at fancy restaurants. It was good that she was honest enough to admit it. That's when I told her, well, it seems you need to be going back to the basics. She didn't understand what exactly I was saying. And then I told her, do me a favor. I asked her this question, have you read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book? She's like, no. I said, haven't you read any of Robert Kiyosaki's books? No. I said, okay, then do me a favor. Please go and read that book, all right? Read that book completely and then get back to me. Only then will I be able to start the mentorship. Because I just feel that you're missing that foundation of knowing where to spend the money, how to save money, and how to invest money. Saving money isn't important. You should know how to invest your money. Having $1 million in your bank account doesn't make you a millionaire, okay? It may make you a millionaire, basically on the papers, but if you aren't earning a good amount of income from your investments, then you cannot consider yourself a millionaire, okay? Sorry to put water on your dreams or on your thought process, but that is a reality, okay? So if you do have money in your bank, I'm not saying that savings aren't important. Savings are absolutely important, but that doesn't mean you just keep hoarding your money, inside your bank account. Any smart person or any wise person would tell you the same. You have to keep making regular investments, okay? You need to keep building your assets. Ultimately, it's all about how your number of assets are going to be more than your number of liabilities. It's as simple as that. So coming back to my student's story. So she read the book, she came back to me. It actually expanded her thinking process, and then it just made things easier for me to mentor and train her further on. And today she's at a very good level when she's making more than $8,000, and she's also bought a couple of properties, okay, back in her country, which is Sweden, okay, and she's doing good. And that's what I told her about. And see, the first thing that I start with before I begin the Kindle publishing lessons from my mentorship courses, there's a chapter which I spend more time on, and it's all about money management skills and budgeting. Okay, I make sure that my student or mentee is in the right frame of mind and is on the same page with me. Otherwise, it just defeats the whole purpose, of taking them forward and continuing the mentorship sessions. So that's a key, guys. If you want to make good amount of money, if you want to become financially independent, you are considering to become rich and living a life of luxury, then you need to work on your assets. If you're a young guy in your 20s and who's watching this, learn to prioritize your goals. If you're a man or a woman in your 40s or your 50s who's watching this, it's not too late, okay? You can still get started, okay? Start with investing in yourself, all right? What do I mean by that? Start by going to seminars, start by taking some good courses, real estate courses, but don't start with real estate, okay? Because sharing from my experience, after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad book, the first thing that I did was I bought a property. Of course, no regrets on that. It still brings me more than $1,000 as rent. But what I'm trying to say was that if you want to reach a level wherein you can become financially independent faster, okay, then do start with a business. The formula should be like this: start with a business, take it to a level where it's earning at least a minimum of $5,000 per month. Take a chunk of money, okay. At the same time, it's important to reinvest. Okay, let's go by numbers. You're earning $5,000 from one business, okay. Reinvest $1,000 back into the business. Take aside $1,000, put it in your savings emergency account. Take out another $2,000, keep it aside for your investing purposes. That could be in real estate. It could be in other alternative equipments, like, let's say, power generators, vehicles which you're planning to put on rent. It could be shipping containers, which is one of my favorite investments. So you basically have to educate yourself. It's more about being self-aware, okay, with your needs, your wants, your financial goals, and most importantly, how financially literate you are. You may hold a master's of business administration degree, but if you're not financially literate, your life is going to be a mess. It is absolutely going to be a mess. You're going to be stuck in the rat race. You're going to be running your whole. You're going to be running and wasting your time living in the corporate world. So, become financially literate, build up your assets, minimize your liabilities, and enjoy life. We'll be coming up with more videos soon on this very topic, assets and liabilities, but I guess you've understood my thinking process behind it, on why exactly I decided to buy my car only after becoming an entrepreneur and an investor who was making a good amount of money from my investments alone. And I would encourage and advise you guys to do the same as well. Do not get too excited if your colleague or if your friend buys a fancy car. Do not get too excited, or do not try to emulate the same person by showing off or coming up with the same stuff. Focus on your objectives. Have a laser sharp focus. Know what your priorities in life are. Know what your goals are. This is your life. Your life is in your hands. You're not here to impress anyone, okay? You're not here to make anyone excited or feel excited with your accomplishments. It's for you yourself. Ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself, what is important? Do you want to be stuck in the rat race? Do you want to keep running around? Do you want to take stress? If this is the kind of life you enjoy, then keep doing it so. But if you want a life where money works for you passively, without you running after money, then do as I say, okay? Want to get started with Kindle publishing business, one of the most easiest and convenient business? I've put the description below the video. Check it out and get enrolled fast. You want to get in touch with me? I've put in my email address below. You can write to me if you have any questions, want to take my mentorship. I can help you out, okay? I can come up with a good plan to set you on track, all right? So that's it from me for now. I'll be signing off. Over and out. You guys take care. Goodbye.